So my journey is actually from the factory floor through to the corridors of power, until I decided, before I kick these corridors down, let me leave. I was born in District 6. How long ago, Ian?
81 years.
81 years ago.
Wow.
Okay. The place where I was born, it's still there. They've not built on that area. There's a tree and it faces the back of the Apostolic Church. So that's where my ashes are going to go. Because a lot of people can't identify the places because they've renamed the places. But where we have stayed is still there. The house didn't belong to my parents, it belonged to the people next door. And in District 6 there's always extended families, uncles and cousins and So we were in that house, and by the time my dad heard about that they were going to reclassify the area, he wasn't going to wait for the bulldozers. Because he worked for the city council, they started some scheme called whites only, colours only, and we bought the house, but that's when the financial constraints just jumped in. And at the age of about 15, I was came from school one day, removed my uniform, didn't know I was never going to wear it again, because my mother found us a job in the factory.
Sure.
So I worked in the factory for many years, got married. I didn't have the talent for marriage, so I skedaddled. And so, of course, we had a piano, came on from school, we had a tutor. I was learning to read music. And then one day I came home, the piano was gone. What happened? We had to sell it because we didn't have money to pay for the food. So I stayed in the factory for many years, left the husband, no money, no skill, no education, no job. Stayed with my parents, and I walked through the city and I saw a secretarial college. I see this school and I thought, let me try this, because they teach people to type. And I didn't want to be in the factory anymore, I wanted to type. So I go and I buy the manual, sit down, I had the tutorial. Had a lovely time, couldn't wait for next week. The next week I got there, I got to the door and they said, you can't come in. So I said, but I was here last week. They said, no, it's for white people. So I left, didn't have money to buy a typewriter. Of course, my tail between my legs, and I'm thinking, what do I do here? So I have the manual, so I traced the keyboard from the manual, and that's how I learned to type. Mother thought I was going cuckoo, but that's what I did. Well, after I turned 60, I went through a whole lot of jobs. My book, I've got my memoir, it's my 47 years in the workplace. And of the 47 years, I had 16 months job satisfaction. And that was working on the Constitution. So it changed, and I was hesitant to take the job. The person who interviewed me was on death row for a while. And she said to me, I understand your dilemma, but think of the exposure. So that's what I thought, and so I took all the jobs that I had. Basically taking the piss out of the bosses who were nasty to me, but I traced through elements of sexual harassment, power relations, and just put it sort of all together. So my journey is actually from the factory floor through to the corridors of power, until I decided, before I kick these corridors down, let me leave. And then I have a picture there, dear Cyril, who was my boss twice, Cyril Ramaphosa. And he was wonderful to work with. I absolutely loved this man because he had a wicked sense of humor. He was a trade unionist, and he liked to gossip. That's what I liked about him. I remember being on a plane with him one day, and there was a French woman, and he asked her where is she from. He said, France, and she says, there must be a lot of French people in France. And one day during the deliberations, that they were deliberating the same-sex unions, and a guy from the very religious party put up his hand, and Cyril says, Mr. Green, is that a limp wrist I see? And not everybody caught on, because we knew it, so we burst out laughing. So that is kind of, well, if we look at even the early 90s, we wouldn't have been able to meet in a group like this because it's an illegal gathering, right? So that wasn't on. Anyway, so what I want you to do now, we're going to bring the food and we're going to chat while we...
So everybody can just help themselves, eh?
So this is the fish balls, and then there's for you, this is hake. It's got coriander, garlic, chili, and breadcrumbs here, and when we fried, we have the big one, we don't have the little ones like that. And this is what we call, who speaks Afrikaans here? Tomatismootjie. Is that so? It's fresh. Yeah. So you can dip that into there, and then these are the sweets we used to eat at that stage. So we're all standing, and we shared the building with architects. And there's one man, one architect, he stood there and he couldn't understand why. And we had to go out and buy the milk to make the tea. And this man was like, why must I be standing here? I'm working all day, and now I have to stand here and wait, and I can't go home. And as he is ranting, the lift opens and Mandela gets out and goes straight to him and says, hello, how are you?
Small voice.
So he was that kind of person. Including the guards, the bodyguards, they used to have a really tough time because he was operating on prison time, so you would just go and walk everywhere, and you were also supposed to do that. And one day, somebody said to him, also we was running, somebody sees this man, he says, has anybody told me you look like Mandela? He says, so many people. And then one day I worked also on the national executive, the top structure of the ANC, and Winnie Mandela was late, and she didn't want him to see that she was late. She just took her big bum and she did that right to get off the seat. So she could sit there.
Oh wow.
I thought, what do you want, my district 6 or my cake plate? Manners to come out here. Because there's a saying, maak 'n pad of ek skop 'n pad. So all those little things, so it made that period for me really interesting compared to, it was the best time that I ever had working on the Constitution. That tapestry was made through one day, I was sitting between, we had a meeting, so I had was the National Party at the time, and my chairperson on the other side, and I was sitting in the middle, and they had an argument. It was just short of a fist fight. And I was so tense, and I had to go back and do the minutes for the meeting. So I walked around in the city, and I just needed to find something to calm me down. So I saw this haberdashery shop. I went in there and I bought the grid, and if you paid me $1 million, I would not give it away because that's a memory for me. Yes. Then I also talk about things like, for example, this where you have respectable non-European, respectable, well-spoken, coloured. And unfortunately, I had to fall under that because otherwise I wouldn't have found a job. I tried with the job so many times and every time I get told, and I desperately wanted a job at the university because I knew you could study at a very reduced rate. But every time I tried, then it's for white people. Until one day I decided I'm going to go via a placing agent. And this woman, she was British, school momish, and she said to me, I have just the job for you. So I said, oh, do tell. So she says, oh, there's a professor at the university. I stopped her, I said, I told you I'm not white. She said, no, the professor said he wants a nice coloured girl. By which stage the coloured girl was going on to being 40. And I got the job. I quite enjoyed it until they had to move me out because the professor was so right-wing and he always denied, and there were always fights in the department, you know. If somebody just wore a red jersey, then you were a communist, and, you know, that sort of thing. And then there was a letter that had gone missing. And I'd learned through another place, well, I actually enjoyed that job, was with they were helping ships store their food and whatever. And she taught me, always said to me, you cover your back no matter what. So what I did, I don't know if any of you are old enough to know who J. Edgar Hoover is. He started keeping his own files, and that's what I did. I kept my own little files, and he was arguing, no, he's never seen this. Took out, I said, this is what you're talking about. Oops, there goes my job. So the guys, and I thought, what do I do here? So the one professor said, he found me a job in the library. So they said it's best if we get Pat out of the way. So that I don't tell it all. That is why I'm enjoying this thing that's going on now. Although I hate the commissions, but they're paying it on, they're spilling the beans. And I think do that. So I get to the library, and they order the books. I'm placed up on the top floor, and you know, what I have to do is, those times was typewriters, no Google yet. And you have a fat wad of papers, the card goes into the reference card into the library downstairs. One goes off to the publisher, one goes off somewhere else. And one is an orange one that you can only read that book if you stay. You can't take a book off campus because it's banned, so you can only read it on. So I have to put the carbon paper through about 6, and you make mistakes, and you can't Tipex and take out because there's a whole lot. I tell you, by the time I go home at night, there's a full bag of it I'm going to now smuggle out that I have to take out and throw away. And the lady, she was about my height, and she said to me, please try not to make mistakes because it's very expensive. I said, no, I shall do my best. And then one morning, every morning, we should share the phones also. Every morning she'd come to my desk, the phone was on my desk, and she would phone and say, hello, is the master there? She's talking about her husband, she's talking to the domestic. Right? And she just did it one morning when I got out of the bad side of the bed. Now when we came down the long corridor, the pictures, the walls were adorned with, what's this guy's name at Rand Rhodesia?
Rhodes.
Yes.
Yes.
No, not Ian Smith, Cecil John Rhodes. All down the walls, and only men in his cabinet, and I've learned afterwards why. And she would go on about this, is the master there? And I just got so fed up at one morning, and I got up, it was the time when we were reading those platforms, you know, high shoes, and I got up and I And she screeched because she said, I am so sorry. Can we do something about this? I did it deliberately because I got really tired of this woman's. And then another one comes into the office one day and everybody's gone. I was alone. Hi, is nobody here? I said, I guess if I'm nobody, then nobody's here. So work was pleasant and unpleasant. So have you eaten? I just want to make sure that you please help me. So I'll take it out because I'm not.
Very nice.
So I would open this up to the floor. I want to show you down the passage. I kept my, I'm actually a closet historian. I remember during the election, I was working on the elections. And firstly I asked the guys, because we had different ideologies. And when they called me to work with them, I said, how come you guys got me here? Because you don't like me. So they said, no, actually we don't. I said, so why did you get me here? Because you deliver. So I said, okay, I don't have to be intelligent, good looking and deliver the goods, I just have to deliver. Then one day I got called into the command center. All the big wigs were sitting. And my victim complex comes in because I think, what did I do wrong? So I'm standing at the door and I'm waiting for them to. And all they talking about was who farts the loudest, who farts stinks the loudest, and they carry on. All they wanted me to do was organize the tea for Mandela at the school that I used to attend. So that was all. I walked out there, I wrote on a piece of paper, and to think these thoughts are going to run the country. And I found it about 2 decades later. That this paper, I make notes of,
Yes.
including, I'll talk about that also. I think I must have been one of the first whistleblowers also, at which stage they weren't shooting people yet. So let's see what you have, and there's also water there if any of you want.
Thank you.
There's water, and water's quite good.